So you want to know why your life never changes. You want to know why you get stuck in the same problems, circumstances, the same frustrations, the same triggers in your relationships, your career, your personal life, etc. You want to know why you can't finally break free and actually make a lasting change. The answer is your subconscious mind. Your subconscious mind gets conditioned by things, and then it wants to replay those patterns over and over and over again. An example of this occurring is someone who is in a relationship, it ends, and then they get into a new one, only to experience the same set of problems that led to the end of the previous relationship. What happened here? Right? There's a whole bunch of subconscious patterns that were just taken from this relationship, brought to this one, right? And in this context, in this relationship context, they are emerging. It's the same thing in careers or in your daily habits, etc. So you have to understand that the subconscious mind controls 95% of your life. And it's going to just reenact patterns in this very autopilot, mechanical, and robotic-like fashion. And this is a hard thing for our minds to want to understand and to see, because we don't really want to think of ourselves as being controlled by all these subconscious patterns. We want to feel as though we have so much control. We want to think of ourselves as truly in control, when in actuality, we're being controlled by deep conditioning inside of us. This doesn't mean you're powerless, but this means that most of the things that you're doing are probably not things that you have consciously investigated. They're things you've been conditioned with that are just playing themselves out now. And you're not really watching them. You're not aware of this experience very deeply. You don't really have much present moment awareness. You don't really have much awareness of self, awareness of emotions, awareness of X, Y, and Z. So then the only thing you know how to do is to just replay the pattern. You're not really aware of it. You're identified with the pattern. You find your sense of self and ego, right? Your ego is just your sense of self-identity. You find your sense of ego in the pattern. And these patterns reinforce themselves. These patterns want to stay alive. They're homeostatic. They don't just like dismantle and they're kind of gone forever. They require continuous inquiry in order to allow them to break down and even heal, because a lot of our patterns are actually driven by things like emotional wounding, the pain of unmet needs, psychological tendencies, etc. Right? So I really want you to keep in mind that these patterns will actually like push back on your desire to change them. There's kind of an internal struggle here when it comes to actually changing. Because in essence, a lot of these patterns actually helped you to survive at one point. They're not just like stupid patterns, but they're patterns that helped you to get your needs met, typically when you were very young. So for them to just, give way, right, that's not actually very useful for survival. That's not very useful to your inner child, to your childhood self. Right? So they had to be very firmly planted, very firmly conditioned so that you could survive. But now, as an adult, you're at the point where you're hopefully emotionally developed enough to be able to inquire into this stuff and even feel some of the messy emotions around this stuff and all the messiness that holds these patterns together. Essentially, you have the development as a human being that allows you to actually have deep self-awareness so that you can actually change. Right? So keep in mind that these patterns, they reinforce a particular sense of self or identity. And that identity is made out of various beliefs, stories, narratives, emotions, habits, emotional wounds, psychological tendencies, patterns of relationship, life experiences, etc. And to change a pattern isn't really like you're kind of just doing this one innocent thing. No. Your mind is going to interpret this as a threat. I want you to think of when someone questions someone else's beliefs, right? A belief system is a set of patterns, right? And typically when we get a belief question, we don't respond with, "Oh, thank you very much." We respond with, tension. We lock even further in our beliefs. right? We contract into them even more. We're even more defensive, right? And this is all very unconscious. It's not really something we see ourselves doing in a very present and attentive way. It's just very autopilot, essentially. Right? Our mind can fool ourselves into thinking that, yeah, I'm awake, I'm here, I'm aware, but in actuality, you're not. There's a difference as well between thinking and being aware. Simply thinking is not being aware. Thinking is thinking. Being aware is just a pure witnessing, a pure observation. Right? Try just watching thoughts. Right? There's a distinction there. So again, your identity is made up out of various stories, beliefs, narratives, emotions, habits, wounds, psychological tendencies, patterns of relationship, life experiences, etc. And this is, this whole bundle of conditioning is what's actually controlling your life. So in order to actually change your life, you need to change yourself, right? It's not actually a very, complex idea. It's quite simple and straightforward, but it's tricky. And it's tricky because there's parts of you that are stubborn and they don't want to change. But then there's parts of you that know that they are made for something more than the current patterns that you're stuck in. And there can be that kind of internal struggle there. So a change requires a step outside of your current patterns. A change requires a step outside of even your current sense of self, your current sense of identity. A change requires a shift in awareness. A change requires an ability to simply see the pattern that you're stuck in and start choosing a more nourishing action. Odds are you want to change something because it's not nourishing you. It's not giving you the energy that you want. Odds are you want to change something because it's painful. If it was truly pleasurable and healthy, you'd probably like it. So many of your patterns are actually sucking your energy. You can have limiting beliefs that suck your energy. You can have ways of avoiding your emotions through addictions and cravings and just these sort of very impulsive sort of actions, right? That just, suck your energy, right? Instead of being able to feel an emotion, you want to avoid it and you scroll on Instagram and then go eat some junk food, and you're always just kind of living in this kind of constant avoidance, constant chasing and craving, compulsion, etc., which is extremely draining. And in essence, you need to create new subconscious patterns that give you energy. The patterns that you have should nourish you. They shouldn't be taking from you. They shouldn't just be burning all of your energy. Another core point is that you need to live more consciously in order to do that. You need to do things that fuel the development of your consciousness. You need to do things that actually help you to live totally awake, rather than in states of numbness, dullness, low energy. So I'm going to list a lot of those things that can actually help you to kind of snap out of it. And that's like meditation, breath work, healthy eating, a lot of fruits and vegetables, drink a lot of water, stretch your body, get the connection that you need from other people. Watch who you're interacting with as well. Do they actually help you? What's the quality of energy that you're getting in your relationships? How about the work you do? Is the work you do something that nourishes you, or is it just purely draining? A lot of your daily habits are not things that nourish you. A lot of your daily habits are things that probably take from you, especially if you live in Western culture, because there's so much easily available distraction to the point where it's so effortless to numb ourselves to healthy pain, like processing a difficult emotion or going through some form of confusion about our life circumstances. So the reason why your life never changes is because there's a whole bunch of patterns that continuously reinforce themselves that are just replaying on autopilot. And if you want to change your life, you have to become aware of the patterns that are controlling it. So let's say you want to change your career, for example, and you keep settling for a job that you hate. what's going on here? There's probably, number one, an emotion driving this. There's probably going to be frustration and sadness and anxiety. And you're going to be pretty stuck in a lot of those kinds of emotions that need to be seen and processed. There's probably also going to be beliefs of, I need to do what I hate in order to live. If I can't truly do what I love in order to survive. There's going to be a lot of underlying stuff that you need to direct your attention towards, rather than always being distracted by the external world, distracted by just pleasures and cravings and addictions. If you want to change your relationships, what's the quality of energy that you're getting from your relationships? What is the emotion that's attracting you to the relationships that you're in? Right? Maybe you're, with a bunch of people and you all kind of gossip, right? What's the energy that's pulling you in? Right? In that particular circumstance, it's going to be quite sickening. And a lot of these patterns are bringing you pain, like I mentioned. And you have to be very aware of the pain of these patterns. Being aware of the pain of it is going to make you want to change. It's going to make it a lot easier to change. Just like how you don't put your hand on something hot, like a hot stove, over and over and over again because it's painful. And it's very easy to not put your hand on top of a hot stove because it's painful. Right? You just simply don't do that. It's not hard at all to refrain from doing that, or like jamming your thumb in your eye. It's very easy to not do that because it's painful. Once you actually recognize the pain that your current patterns bring you, it'll start to open up a new timeline for you. It'll open up a new possibility, because you're not going to want to continue on this same direction, on the same trajectory. The pain of it and being aware of it, rather than kind of just, again, mechanically and, just going through life in this very autopilot-like fashion, right? By being fully conscious of it, it's going to make you shift. That's it for this video. If you guys are interested in working one-to-one with me, you can apply to do so. I'm doing one-to-one coaching. Link is in the pinned comment. Take it easy.